Good morning and welcome to NCREIF's latest podcast. This is a third in a series of videos on the NCREIF query tool. In the last podcast, we downloaded occupancy and NOI growth data and showed how to transform the data with the Power Query Editor. In this podcast, we will dig into the cap rate templates and explore the different methods to compute a cap rate. To compare the different approaches, we will import and combine the data using Excel Power Query. Too ambitious? Maybe. Let's see how far we can get in 10 minutes. My very first computer assignment at Landauer was to build a cap rate database. I remember asking Mike, the lead appraiser, what the cap rate formula was, and he laughed. One simple equation, net operating income divided by value. Easy peasy? Not so simple. 30 years later, these are the definitions I Googled. I know we're working on a global definitions database. However, there was no entry for cap rate. NCREIF's data is based on actual accounting statements and modern valuation methods, such as comparable sales and discounted cash flow analysis. They are a true representation of the historical pricing of NCREIF properties, and in turn, the current traded market value of open-ended funds and the NPI. These funds may differ in style than the larger private broker dataset, which can have different geographic concentrations and can come from the buyer's or seller's broker, which may have been adjusted to stabilize the income and expenses. Through the query tool and analytics, NCREIF offers both equal and value-weighted cap rates, and in a future session, we'll show you how you can reconfigure a query template and make your own. Let's discuss the differences between the leading provider of transaction-based quoted cap rates, Real Capital Analytics, and those available in NCREIF. In the chart on the left, we show the apartment cap rates comparing RCA in yellow to NCREIF in blue. The observed difference for apartments is typically about 100 basis points. What could be the cause? A large portion of the difference between RCA and NCREIF is that RCA is an equal-weighted index made of larger, more diverse set of properties than the NPI. In the chart to the right, we have applied a filter to the RCA data and plotted it in orange. If we focus on the large properties in the major markets, the gap between the two series narrows substantially. Additionally, layering on transaction cap rates in green can also add 50 basis points to the NCREIF apartment cap rates. Lastly, the RCA cap rates are a mix of in-place and stabilized income over sales price, whereas NCREIF cap rates are made up of trailing actual income generated over the last appraised market value. Let's dig into the NCREIF cap rates from the query tool. For this example, we'll use the advanced query tool to explore the appraisal cap rate template. The query tool starts in the normal mode. We'll switch to the advanced mode, load the appraisal cap rate template, and then to explore the last 20 years, scroll to the filter condition and enter the year and quarter field greater than the fourth quarter of 1999. To group by property type, scroll down to the grouping condition and enter property type in square brackets. Lastly, press Run Query to see the results. As we discussed previously, the data returned by the query tool is defined in each query template and comes pre-programmed. This template returns the total number of properties for the quarter with their NOI generated, the ending market value of all the properties in the sample, the total full and partial sales for the period, and both the computed equal and value-weighted appraisal cap rates for each quarter. For the appraisal cap rate template, the equation is NOI divided by ending market value plus all partial sales. The +1 is to avoid a divide by zero error. In this example, you can see the sample in the year 2000 for apartments, or Code A, had 200 properties with an estimate of about 7.3 on a value-weighted basis. Let's look closely at the default where clause for the cap rate template. The first statement filters all properties that must have an absolute value of the current quarter's cap rate less than 30%. Here you can see the equation NCREIF is using to compute the quarterly cap rate. As we said, it's the current quarter NOI divided by the ending market value plus partial sales. Note here it is annualized by multiplying by 4. The CVA flag, which we'll talk about later, must be true. The template also omits hotels and requires that the property be in the NPI index. The current value appraisal, or CVA indicator, was developed over 30 years ago by David Geltner and Jeff Fisher, when valuation practices were very different. The flag checks the valuation method, its market value, the capital expenditures spent, and requires that an external appraisal or true value change omitting capital expenditures occurred. As shown in the chart on the left, even in 1980, most appraisals were performed on a staggered annual cycle, and since 2010, most managers have strong internal quarterly and monthly business practices. In the chart to the right, you can see the analytics cap rates in blue compared to the query tool quarterly CVA cap rates in dashed lines. NCREIF Analytics uses a seasonally adjusted annual methodology versus the appraisal cap rates template, which is quarterly. By using a longer NOI frequency than a single quarter, the seasonally adjusted annual method dampens the noise in the quarterly CVA cap rate. As part of its business process, as properties come in and out of the index, NCREIF tags the final net sales price and transaction type. The transaction cap rate template captures the trailing cap rates of these true sales. Roughly 10% of the index trades during a typical business cycle. However, sample sizes are generally small, and there's a large amount of seasonal and other idiosyncratic noise associated with the index. In the chart, you can see the apartment transaction cap rates in green compared to the other indices. At times, it can be 100 basis points higher than the appraisal-based index, but on average, less than 50 basis points is added to the apartment appraisal rates. In the last podcast, we showed how to use Excel to import and pivot query tool data. In this session, we'll use the Excel Power Query tool to import data from numerous sources for comparison. We'll use the Excel command getData from worksheet to import 5 files, one from the query tool appraisal series, another from the transaction-based template, an analytics export, a file we got from Real Capital Analytics, thanks Jim and Simon, and we'll get interest rates from the FRED database at the St. Louis Federal Reserve. Each dataset needs its own transformation to prepare a comparable set of data. In a future session, we might get into the weeds to show you how you can transform the data, but I'm sure there is better suited content elsewhere. Once each of the datasets is loaded, you can use the combine queries to merge the datasets together. The merge queries feature is sort of like using a VLOOKUP command to grab data from another worksheet. It is much more structured, like using a SQL database, but it's still easy to use in Excel. Select the table you want to use as a base and the table to join. Highlight the date field in both tables to act as the key field, and click OK to merge them. The resulting table is much easier to generate charts and doing analysis than the old style approaches, like opening a bunch of files and linking them together with VLOOKUP. Well, that's it for this session. We'll see you at another time. Farewell and stay safe, my friends. Whew, rough winter. Get out of your hole, shake it off, and attend some educational programs. NCREIF has reworked its 2021 Academy Series to online versions that allow students in our professional institutional real estate program to continue working towards their certificates. Take it away, Bill.